No, Harry Kane.
He played in the Championship.
No, but that's ridiculous because he didn't do anything in the Championship.
Did he make an appearance in the Championship?
No, but he did nothing for Leicester City. So.
Norwich and Millwall. He was.
No, but he didn't do anything.
Hey, I'm not
for
going
those.
to argue that way. I'm just saying he's on the bench for the whole D goal.
I will walk out of this room if we pick Harry Kane in our 11.
Hello guys, welcome back to the Sportsman Untitled, and we've got another great Championship podcast on the way for you today. I'm joined by Gab Sutton, as always, and special guest returning again, Benjamin Bloom. Now, we've got an interesting thing coming up at the end of the show. We're going to discuss our best ever played in the Championship 11, so stick around for that one. And make sure you like and subscribe, as always, to stay up to date with our Championship podcast. But Gab, you've got some good news to talk about because I believe your treble won last week.
It did, yes. So very happy to get those 3 picks off. So yeah, I'm happy to be off and running.
Up and running, and you'll be back later with your Championship treble for this weekend as well. I think we should probably start as well. I'm sorry, Ben, we'll come to you in a minute. Sunderland versus Leeds, Gab. Your prediction's got a bit of stick because, of course, Leeds came in with that very, very late dramatic winner. You backed Sunderland as you had to do. Well, thoughts on that?
Oh, mate. I mean, to be fair, Sunderland were holding out. I thought for the whole of the second half of that game, Sunderland were actually reasonably comfortable. Like, in terms of, Leeds were applying a bit of pressure, but I thought Sunderland were kind of keeping them at bay. And then it was kind of the substitutions for both teams that sort of changed the game. I thought Joe Rothwell and Pascal Stoik, mate, lovely pronunciation I got on that. I know, brilliant. Nailed it. So those two and Matteo Joseph made a real difference for Leeds from the bench, whereas I think with Sunderland, not sure they quite got the subs right. So that was the thing that changed it in Leeds' favour.
Absolutely. We'll come on to Sheffield United versus Leeds, which is obviously the Monday night fixture in a bit, but let's discuss some of the results that have already happened this weekend. We have to start with Luton, I think, Ben. Massive trouble. It feels like a 2-0 loss to local rivals Watford. How's it gone this wrong for them?
Oh, I mean, there's the this season view, and then there's the long-term view. So in deference to Luton, they're not like a normal relegated team in that they didn't go up and spend 100 million quid on players and come down with a load of assets that you can sell for 20, 30 million, like we've seen Leicester and Burnley and Southampton to a lesser extent do. We think the parachute money is going to be spent on the stadium. So they're also, even though I suppose they did spend a load of money on Mark McGuinness and they've gone for it a bit in the January window. So the first thing I'd say in deference to Luton is they're not a normal relegated team. The next 2 things I would say is I have a rule in football and in the EFL that a sharp rise is normally followed by a sharp fall. I don't know if you can call Luton's a completely sharp rise, but they've certainly moved quickly and punched above their weight year after year after year. And then you get into this season, it's just fallen completely flat, hasn't it? And everything that was kind of good about them. One more thing I'd add in as well is the season they went up, we had that gap, first and second. It was Burnley and Sheffield United. Was that year, wasn't it? And Simon, there was Luton and Coventry in the playoff final, and it felt like a wide open door for somebody who wouldn't necessarily normally be up there to get up there, and it was going to be Luton or Coventry, who'd both been in League Two in previous years. So I do think there's a lot that made Luton not a normal case study Premier League bounce back parachute team, but for them to be bottom is extraordinary, and it's very sad because they were, if you ask me or Gab, any time in the last 10 years, who are your super, super well-run clubs? Luton, right at the top of the list, operationally, absolutely brilliant, on the pitch, squeezing every little bit out of it. But, yeah, I've spent the whole season, we'll finish on this in a minute. I've spent the whole season thinking, they're going to run. They'll win 4 out of 6 in the next run. And it just is not happening.
Gab.
I'm slightly confused by it, Simon, because I would have thought it more likely that Sheffield United would have done something similar to what Luton are doing, because I felt like Luton were too stable to have this kind of season. But increasingly, and I mean exactly the same as you, Ben, I felt very confident for a long time that Luton were just going to take off and finish mid-table. But it's just become increasingly apparent, especially with no impact from Matt Bloomfield as well, that that's not going to happen. I'm really worried by the lack of fight that Luton Town showed. They've always had some really strong core values in their during their rise up the leagues, and it feels like that's missing a little bit for Luton Town. I certainly think they're missing a bit of experience at the back, especially when Cal Naismith is absent. I think that back three of Royal Walters, Mads Anderson and Amari Bell, I don't think that's quite solid enough for the way Matt Bloomfield wants, for what Matt Bloomfield wants. Not sure about Langas up top either, so lots of problems for Luton. But it kind of came as a surprise to no show at Watford, because it did also come off the back of an encouraging performance against Sheffield United the previous weekend.
So it's been awful away from home though, haven't they?
Yeah, that's true. So yeah, 5 points off. It's looking like they've got to beat Portsmouth this weekend, haven't they?
You said that the last 5 crunch games, they haven't won any of them, have they?
Yeah, but that is an absolute must-win. I think it's getting to that territory now.
There was a statistic I saw, and we talk about teams being able to turn it around, or teams we expect to turn it around, and it was QPR and Coventry. So Luton were a point above Coventry on Christmas Day. They're now 22 points behind them. If you look at that kind of
Simon, there's big
difference.
problems when you look at what they're up against as well. When you've had Oxford have had a ridiculous 8-game run when Rowett came. Portsmouth have won 9 in 11 or 8 in 11 or something at Fratton. Everyone else has had a nice little split. Even like Swansea winning at the weekend, and they go to 40, and you're like, well, okay, you ain't catching them now, are you? So there's big problems with what they're up against, Simon, as well.
They've almost rolled the dice with the Edwards to Bloomfield change already, and they can't really roll the
they
dice
can't do that
again
now as well. Yeah, agreed. Yeah.
So in terms of his appointment, because we had a discussion, Gab, when Bloomfield came in about talented coach, obviously doing really well at Wickham, and you couldn't see him making this move. He made the move, and now is he regretting it? We don't know. It seems like a bit of an odd appointment for Luton to make with the benefit of hindsight.
Yeah, it must be very. It must be a tough one for Matt Bloomfield, because he's enjoying this kind of feel-good season with Wycombe Wanderers, the club that he had spent 20-odd years with, and had the opportunity to win a promotion at the end of it. And then he's moved because he didn't really feel appreciated by the ownership there. And now he could be relegated, could finish his season with a relegation rather than a promotion, which would be a really tough sort of reality to face. And I think... Look, I'm sure he's going to give it everything between now and the end of the season, but I am worried a little bit that Matt Bloomfield, I look at some of the other people towards the bottom of the Championship. They've got really good coaching pedigree. So, for instance, Ruben Selles at Hull has built up this incredible coaching profile. Matt Bloomfield, in terms of his CV, it's really just a good year at Wycombe Wanderers. And it does make me wonder, whether his CV kind of stacks up to some of the other.
And Gab, that's a really interesting point, because Simon, at the bottom, is it about having a good coach to get you out of this, or having a good squad? I'd maybe side with Gab that it's about the coach down there, because Luton clearly, read up that table, have the best squad. Maybe Hull could rival them, a little bit of invested well and invested ambitiously, but maybe squad doesn't matter at this point.
If you've got Alfie Doughty on paper and Marvellous Nakamba and Carlton Morris on paper, these should be, decent Championship players. So something's not quite right there.
Saw them be very good Championship players and almost decent Premier League players 12 months ago.
Morris scored 10 in the Premier League, didn't he? Or 10 or
Adebayo
more,
was similar numbers, I think,
crazy.
as well. Absolutely crazy. It brings us to a good kind of topic, because we're going to talk about the other teams in the relegation battle as well as Luton. And we're kind of into this final 15-game stint now, where maybe you're right, Ben, it doesn't really matter about the quality of the squad and longevity. It's just points on the board are needed. For you, Ben, you're looking at that kind of bottom end of the table. Kind of concerns or points you want to pick out there that you might want to look at?
So I always try and look at the geography of the table as a whole. And I was a bit, well, not necessarily concerned, but my theory was that because the race for 5th and 6th is so poor and below the standard of points normally, I thought we were going to have what happened last season, where Birmingham ended up going down with 50 points and the points were going in at the bottom of the table. Now, the points are going in towards the bottom of the table, but I'm now worried we're going to get a Peterborough, Barnsley, Derby situation where they were adrift and we get a very boring last 3-4 weeks of the season, because as I said in the previous answer, Simon, a lot of teams have had good little splurges and put runs on, and we look at the magic 1 point per game or 45 to survive, and lo and behold, 21st place Cardiff are there projecting 46 points, and then you get your gap and they've all played a game more. So the concern now is, I know you want me to give a lovely hyperbolic answer about a relegation scrap and 8 teams still in it on the last day. We love that as neutrals and doing this job, but Simon, could we have not much to play for on the last day? I don't know, you tell me.
I can't tell you, that's your job. I will say, I look at the strength of the bottom 3 teams and I look at John Eustace at Derby, and I have to believe at some point their results will start to improve. I look at Plymouth losing, 1 out of the last 5 in the league, and you think they're starting to do a bit of movement towards closing that gap. Luton, I can't comment on Luton any more than we've already said. I think I really worry about them.
Simon, quickly, sorry to interrupt, the fact that Oxford and Pompey, 2 ex-League One teams, are pretty much, well, they're 1 game away from having 40 points with over 10 to play. So you would think, unless they are dreadful, abjectly awful, 0.5 points per game, they're going to be mid-40s, safe for those fan bases, which means someone who we weren't expecting at the start of the season to go down is going down.
Which is better than the situation we see in the Premier League, which we won't talk about the bottom 3 in there anymore. Gab, how do you see it at the moment then at the bottom? Are you with Ben, or do you think it will be a bit tighter?
I think it's very difficult to say. I think Sellers keeps Hull up because of those away performances. You think of the one at Bramall Lane, you think of the one at Sunderland. I've been really impressed with his work. I don't think he's quite got a squad to his liking just yet, but I'm backing him to keep them up. I'm kind of siding with, I liked what I saw from Cardiff at Home Park at the weekend. They battled in with that 10 men, but even before Gutas's red card, I thought Cardiff were the better side and looked very bright and creative, and I'm thinking Cardiff might pull away. So yeah, I am worried about that bottom 3, because I had been making a case previously for Plymouth Argyle to pull away based on that 5-1 victory over Millwall and the FA Cup victory over Liverpool. And you could make a case for Derby because of the John Eustace impact, and you could make a case for Luton because of the squad they've got on paper. But there is a danger that at the moment for Plymouth Argyle, the gap's 3 points, but they've played 1 more game than Cardiff City. So it's looking like, if you call it more like 4. And again, in that case, it's 4-point gap for Derby, 5-point gap for Luton. There is still time for those 3 teams to make up that gap, but I'm worried about those 3. I have to say.
I'd like to also talk about Stoke City, because they are the team that we kind of haven't mentioned there, that are kind of sitting a bit dormant and not doing enough to kind of confirm their safety. And they've got a decent squad. They're kind of just having another Stoke season, but maybe flirting a bit dangerously now with the bottom 3. And Mark Robbins doesn't really seem to have the impact we hoped he would.
Let me check my calendar, Simon. Hang on a minute. Oh yeah, I've got down here Stoke to rouse and rally to 16th place. So I think that's due ever so soon. No, but Gab's already pointed out Hull's capacity to, their last 2 away wins have been at Sunderland and Sheffield United, which tells you at this level they can win games. And I just see Stoke, I can see 2 wins in the last 4. And I mean, look, if you're Stoke and there's 12 games to go and you've got 35 points and you win 3 out of 12 games, you're at 44 with a few draws. I think you're okay. But you never know. But Stoke always rally to 16th or whatever, don't they? I'll be wrong one year.
Yeah. What have you made of the Robbins impact at Stoke, Gab, from a kind of neutral perspective? Because I think you see his long-term success at Coventry, the harshness in many people felt that when he was sacked. And Stoke were really quite happy to have him on board, but it's not quite taken off in the short term, at least.
Yeah, I think there seems to be a history at Stoke of good managers, respected football people, not quite being able to turn things around there permanently, and so I'm willing to give Mark Robbins a little bit of leeway there, and I think he'll be looking forward to, can we get to 50 points and then just kind of maybe change the culture of the club and change the mentality of the club
again.
Yeah, exactly. But I think one positive that I've sort of picked out is Wouter Berger's been in decent form for the Potters recently with his play at the base midfield, so hopefully that's something they can build on.
Another Stoke City rebuild to look forward to, as you
I know,
mentioned
yeah,
this summer.
That's on my calendar in autumn, yeah.
Just the same
Stoke,
calendar,
Stoke,
isn't it,
we
from
love you, Stoke, but it has been Groundhog Day for the last 9 years or whatever.
Absolutely. Let's turn our attention to the playoff race as well, because I would like you both to pick out one team from this kind of mass of teams that have collated with playoff hopes that you are excited about, confident about, like the look of. Gab, do you want to start here?
Norwich City for me. Just because of Josh Sargent and that performance you saw from him in that 4-2 victory over Stoke, and his link-up play with Ante Cernak really impressed me.
A goal every 66 minutes.
I know, yeah.
He's been back in the starting lineup.
And again, I mean, I wouldn't have necessarily had him down as one of the most prolific strikers in the Championship, but actually, when you add those couple of goals into the equation, he sort of started to come back into form since returning from injury. So, yeah, I think he's the most complete centre forward in the Championship for me. And that link-up play with Borja Sainz seems to be coming back to fruition after Sainz had maybe had a bit of a drop-off as well. Lovely finish from Lewis Dobbin at the weekend, I thought, as well. So, do you know what? I'm excited about Stoke because I do see a world where Blackburn Rovers drop off.
Did you just say excited about Stoke?
Excited about Norwich City.
Excited about Norwich.
Yes, absolutely. There you go. So I'm excited about Norwich City because Blackburn Rovers, I think, could drop out a little
Next
bit.
game,
I think
Blackburn versus Norwich.
they win at Ewood Park. They go within 1 point of Blackburn Rovers. So we've been treating Norwich City as outsiders all season, but they could very much sneak in there.
Two of the best attackers in the Championship in Sainz and Sargent. It sometimes is as simple as that. How about you, Ben? Who are you looking at with gleeful eyes?
Well, it depends whether you're asking me who's a good pick to get into the playoffs or who's a good pick to win the playoffs, because they are two entirely different things. Obviously, I like Gab's argument in terms of star power. Sargent, I do feel, is the hottest player in the league, and we said that about Sainz in October, November time before his suspension. So they have got the star power to get in there. Coventry are the ones performing like a team who are going to make the surge in terms of the consistency.
Do you know what? I loved their performance at the weekend. I don't know what you thought, but
I loved it as well. Take it away, Gab.
Well, I thought just the intensity that they produced really impressed me. Like when they were 2-0 up, they still had like 6 or 7 players pushing into the final third and putting pressure on the opposition goalkeeper even. So, yeah, the intensity of Coventry City and the fitness that we're seeing from them under Frank Lampard, I think, definitely deserves a mention.
But they're the ones that are putting together the sort of run that gets you in there to give you a chance. However, my contention is that star power does not win you tournament football games. That it's about the whole package. And my contention also is, if the standard is low for 5th and 6th, the chances of them beating whoever's in 3rd and 4th are low, in my humble opinion. And I know the comments will say, Ben, the playoffs are a lottery. No, they're not. Go back and look at the stats. I think, when was the last 6th place winner? We're going back 10, 15,
Blackpool
Palace.
would be one of them in 2010,
Huddersfield won it from 5th. Villa won it from 5th with a Jack Grealish, Tyrone Mings and Tammy Abraham. So don't give me that was a playoff lottery shock. But there's a bigger conversation to have about the chasms in English football and the power of the teams that are probably going to... And fair play to Sunderland, because they're not someone we categorise in there. But, I mean, Simon, you're a Coventry fan. Right now, playoff semi-final against Burnley. Can Coventry beat Burnley?
Burnley, I would like to go up automatically. I tell you what I would say.
Now, they would be a great playoff team, Burnley, wouldn't they?
You don't want to play Burnley. I would say I was kind of on board with your theory quite a lot of the time, in the fact that I thought it might just be a 3rd versus 4th playoff final. But if you look at the underlying numbers of Coventry in particular, they've been performing at the same level as Sheffield United for the majority of the season. I think Coventry could win the playoffs if they get in it, which is something baffling to say. And I know we've won 7 out of 8 and it's all going very, very well. 45 minutes against Preston first half was the best we've played under Frank Lampard, I think. You look at Hadji Wright's not even kicked a ball yet. He's back next week. Mason Clark's back to form.
Grimes' deliveries from those corners.
We've signed one of the best midfielders in the Championship. Cost a bit of money, but you get what you pay for. And I think we could beat Sunderland and Sheffield United in the playoffs.
Is there any chance, if we did this show in 2 months' time, that Tony Mowbray has won 7 out of 10 games with West Brom and they're playing Mowbray football and it's goals flying? I just need to see something from somebody else, because Norwich, star power, inconsistent. Blackburn trending down. Coventry, very, very consistent. You'd always have that question of, can you go too early? And then what do you do once you're in there and keep that momentum up? But yeah, I take your argument, Simon, about the underlying numbers. Bristol City and Watford are very good at home and can't win away, and then you're right down into the middle of the table. This is my only concern about whoever is in 5th and 6th being able to challenge properly over 2 games whoever's in 3rd and 4th.
Would you not suggest to that argument, though, that we're seeing Sunderland slightly drop off in form, that the gap, if we're talking in 10 games' time, between 4th and 5th may not be this 11-point gap we see now. It might be more of the 4 or 5 points.
I would fire back. Would you not argue that over the season, Sunderland have just been much, much better than all these teams? And they just haven't they? They've been at a different level, and the table's told us that, and our eyes have told us that. But I do accept your... And again, with the underlying numbers point on Coventry, a lot of them were recorded under Mark Robbins with strikers missing chances and whatnot. And then it's how much do we pay? I know I'm doing points projections, which literally take into account what happened on day 1 of the season. So you can fire that back at me. But then how much are we looking at those numbers from the start of the season? But this is why it's fun to debate, isn't it? Yeah.
We'll have a little preview potentially of the playoffs as well, because Coventry play Sheffield United, Burnley and Sunderland back to back. 3 games in a row in a couple of weeks' time. So maybe we'll
I'm on the train if they win all of those, Gav.
Yeah. We'll get an idea of where they're at there. We do, of course, have to talk about Monday night's game. We are recording this on Monday. Leeds United, Sheffield United at Bramall Lane. Huge. We'll get some score predictions from you both in a bit. Gab, you thought Leeds might slip up last week.
I did.
Are they home and hosed if they win this one?
I think let's have a look what the gap be. 7 points. I don't think this Leeds United team is going to give up a 7-point gap to 3rd if they win tonight. So yeah, I think tonight would be a hugely significant win if they do get it. I actually think they will get it, because although Sheffield United have won 6 of their last 7, a lot of them have been a little bit unconvincing performance-wise, and I think that Leeds are a completely different kettle of fish to anyone they faced recently. So yeah, I'm thinking Leeds are going to win at Bramall Lane.
I'm on board with you, Gab. I think Leeds are the best team in the Championship. Look at the goal difference. They've got double the goal difference. So it's Sheffield United, which kind of gets to your point where Sheffield United have been grinding them out. Leeds have just been hammering teams. Ben, how do you see this one going?
Yeah, so I agree. The long play has been that you wonder if Leeds had had Ampadu and Gruer fit right the way through autumn, what kind of points total they would have now, because they've really nicely just grown into this form. We saw this with Farker at Norwich, where you get to this point of the season and he rides out the same team for like 8 games in a row, and it's just mega consistent. I know Burnley are doing unbelievable undefeated streaks and clean sheets and all of that. And by the way, for any Sheffield United fan going to complain about what Gab said, that is a massive compliment for them to be winning games by 1 goal. Ipswich got accused of that last season and ended up in the Premier League. Or you're only winning games by 1 goal. That's a big feather in the cap. I
think there's a difference though in terms of before. I think Ipswich were more convincing last season.
Oh yeah.
I'm not.
But the broad point.
Yeah.
The broad point is it's never a bad thing to be able to win lots of games by 1 goal, is it? I don't think the draw is a disaster for either side, and it ticks off. If you're Leeds as well, you know that in round 44, Sheffield United and Burnley play each other. And if you're Leeds, you're probably thinking, even the draw with that game, can those two take each other out in that game, and you're just off into the distance. But let's just pay some respect to these points totals, because obviously Sheffield United would have 72 without the points deduction. If Leeds do win, you're talking about home and host. Are we talking about 100 points as well?
25 points to go it would be with 14 games, and that's less than
Eminently
2 points
doable.
a game.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we're looking at that. Right, I'll get a score prediction from you both for this massive Monday night fixture. Gab, what are you saying?
3-0 to Leeds.
You've gone 3-0.
That's
That's my
tremendous.
score prediction. Yeah. Go on, Ben.
I'll be the boring bloke who goes 1-1, draw okay for either team. I know Burnley did what they needed to and put the pressure on, but all eyes then on round 44 and a potentially very juicy promotion decider then is the way I see it going. But would I be surprised if it didn't? No, there's your caveat.
I will go for Leeds to nick it 2-1 on this occasion. A Sunderland-esque performance from last week, a repeat of that. Maybe they'll just nick it late on and take a massive step towards the championship title. Right, we're doing something different this week for you guys because we've got a good question to answer and I've asked the guys to do a little bit of research for it. We're going to discuss the best players to have played in the championship and hopefully create an 11. And then we're going to discuss how we think they would do in the Premier League. We've got some massive names on this list. Gab, do you want to chuck us a couple forward that you think should be included from your 11?
I'm going to go with James Trafford, the Burnley goalkeeper from this season.
Also got James Trafford because I wanted one from this season. There we go. This is a bad start. The producers wanted disagreements ahoy here, but we're going to agree.
I think one from this season isn't too bad an idea. I think players like Jordan Pickford have played in the Championship before and obviously done very well. Raya had a couple of seasons at Blackburn,
David
did he, in
Raya,
the Championship? I mean, both doing well at the top end of the Premier League, but I mean, when you've conceded only 9 goals, I just
find that phenomenal. Yeah.
Well, and if you're doing this in 10 years' time, someone will be sat in our seat, we'll be retired, we'll be on a beach somewhere, and they'll be saying, do you remember that season where James Trafford didn't concede a goal for 6 months or whatever?
25 clean sheets in 34 games is just...
Right, you've convinced me. Right, we'll put the goalkeeper in as James Trafford because we did.
Can I give a shout out to Lee Camp for playing 9,000 games in the Championship as well?
Well, that's
the longevity pick.
That's the other question. Do you go for longevity or do you go for one-off seasons?
I've gone for a mix.
Okay, interesting.
We'll see what we come up with,
right.
But I'm glad we've got someone from this season, or at least the modern era, who has a bit of potential to them, so that's good. Defensively.
So I've got, for right back, ironically, I've got a left field shout, and that's Ryan Fredericks. Because when he was at Fulham in that 17-18 season, I thought Ryan Fredericks was brilliant just because of those powerful runs down the right-hand side, linked up with Abubakar Kamara, I think it was. That was one of the right backs.
Cabano as well.
Neeskens Cabano as well, yeah. So I always really enjoyed watching Ryan Fredericks.
Interesting. Ben, who have you come up with?
There's a problem with that because I've got Ryan Sessegnon, the left back of that team. I just feel there's certain players where when you see someone aged 17 just completely ripping up against 28, 30-year-old pros, and I know Sessegnon got moved forward onto the left wing in that season, but he was absolutely incredible. I went for the longevity pick at right back. I went for Chris Gunter just for an entire decade.
But Chris Gunter doesn't really excite you very much. Like, Chris Gunter's just very solid.
Speak for yourself. I'm an EFL pervert.
I've taken a slightly different view at things than you two, so we need to come to some sort of middle ground, because I've just named big names, I think. Even if they weren't amazing in the Championship, they played in the Championship. So my right-back selection is basically England's 2018 World Cup squad with Kyle Walker and Kieran Trippier.
Do you know what? Kieran Trippier was great in that 13-14 season for Burnley. I think he was one of the top assisters, so can't argue with that.
Let's go Trippier. Sorry to Chris Gunter. I'm going Trippier. I'm making an executive decision.
Can I just say Albert Adoma as well? If he has played right back, and he's, I think, now the top appearance maker in Championship history as well.
You want for shoehorning players in just to get away with getting...
Have you never picked an 11 before? That's the whole gimmick here.
On my 2018 England World Cup squad, obviously Harry Maguire and John Stones both have Championship appearances to their name. Harry Maguire came on for a minute in Hull City's playoff final win. Do you know that?
I did not know that.
He replaced Diamande, maybe?
Did he win 5 aerial duels in that 1 minute as well?
Possibly. So, as you say, that's the kind of theory I'd gone down. I'll let you guys throw a couple of centre-backs at me, though.
Throw a couple of centre-backs. Well, I'm going to go with Lewis Dunk and Willy Bolly. Dunk obviously starred in Brighton's 15-16 promotion win. 15-16 or 16-17? 16-17, because they reached the playoffs, didn't they, in 15-16, and then won automatic promotion in 16-17, both under Chris Hughton. So Lewis Dunk and Willy Bolly of the 17-18 Wolves side.
Very, very good. Good two shouts as well, doing all right.
I did write down Willy Bolly and then cross them out. I remember seeing Willy Bolly playing in the Championship, and I think he didn't actually sprint during the whole season. He was that much better than everybody else. He's just saying it. I've done one emotional pick. I've gone for Sol Bamba for obvious reasons. And I've gone for Phil Jagielka because I remember watching back in, I think it was 2005 maybe, him and Lescott playing for Wolves and Sheffield United, thinking, oh my God, those two are going to have strong careers. I think Michael Dawson might have even been at Forest back then, maybe a season or two before. So, I went for Jagielka and Bamba, but I do like Bolly as a shout, although I've got a Wolves player from that season coming up. I bet you can't guess who.
Oh, interesting.
Well, you can, but...
What do we reckon then for centre-back? Should we go for one of yours each? Because
if we both like Bolly, I'm happy to go for Bolly.
All right, let's put Willy Bolly in.
Okay.
And then we need plus one other.
I'm willing to go with Jagielka.
Yeah.
Jags, lovely. And then we move on to left-back. I'd like to point out, as I'm doing with the big names, I'm going to throw his name in there at some point. Gareth Bale was a left-back in the Championship for a very short amount of time, wasn't he?
Did he win the Ballon d'Or, Gareth Bale? Ever win the Ballon d'Or?
No, he didn't win the Ballon d'Or.
He should have.
He was playing for Southampton League One as well a bit, though,
Yeah,
didn't
he scored against Derby on the opening day of the 06-07 season.
That is why you're on the show, Gab, that kind of knowledge.
Get me on the pub quiz team.
So I don't know if we're going to get any better left-backs.
Well, I've already
Gareth
said
Bale.
Ryan Sessegnon.
You've said Ryan
Pick,
Sessegnon.
yeah.
Gab, have you got a left-back for us?
I have got Leif Davis of Ipswich Town.
You're just saying
Okay,
that
I stand corrected. Correct.
Why?
Leif, just because he's... What do you mean, why?
Have you seen that clip where Gary Neville puts Paul Scholes in his five-a-side team and the presenter goes, why? And he goes, have you seen him play football?
Just because for me, Leif Davis has just got a bit of everything you'd want in a left back, like the energy, both the stamina that he brings getting up and down, but also the pace. But also once he gets into the final third, he's got that cool head, hasn't he, where he can pick out those cutbacks. So I loved Leif Davis for Ipswich.
Arguably the key player in the most extraordinary Championship promotion in you name amount of years as well. So let's get Ryan Sessegnon out.
We're just to confirm.
Well, Sessegnon, actually in November of the 17-18 season, Sessegnon got moved into the left of front three. So, and that was what coincided with Fulham's run. So I'm not sure.
He won Young Player and Player of the Year?
Probably, yeah.
Didn't he? Yeah, it's incredible, yeah.
I just want to let everyone know I'm being outvoted, and Leif Davis is.
Mate, you're the presenter. You can write down what you like.
Leif Davis is going in above Gareth Bale, and that's not my decision. That is from the Ipswich fan over there.
No. Gab suggested him.
Right, let's go for a midfield three. I mean, loads to choose from. There's one name that I'm putting in without doubt, and that is Jude Bellingham. I'm not having any other debate on that. So I'll let you two pick the two other selections here.
Ruben Neves.
Yes,
got to be in.
I did a double pivot and I had Ruben Neves and Jude Bellingham. Although Gab will tell you with more knowledge than I that Jude Bellingham actually played wide midfield in a 4-4-2 when he first came through for Birmingham. But obviously, what he's gone on to do now is extraordinary.
I think it's more about what he's gone on to do. So, I mean, what he produced at Championship level at 16 was phenomenal, just absolutely off the scale.
6'3" as well when he was 16, wasn't he? Incredible, yeah.
Whether you'd say on current ability you would put him in the same bracket, at the time he was playing in the Championship as somebody like Ruben Neves, I'm maybe not sure. But then, he's...
and let's be very clear, Gab, Ruben Neves was a Champions League level central midfielder playing in the second tier of English football, taking the mickey, wasn't he?
I would have Jack Grealish in the midfield.
Well, that's... Yeah, I'm gone 4-2-3-1, so that's got to be the next layer of conversation, hasn't it?
No, but if we're playing 4-3-3, I think we have to have Grealish in there.
I can't... I've only got two central midfielders here, so are we moving on to...
We can go to what... I mean, I've got a lot of strikers.
My number 10 can play in central midfield if needs must.
Amazing. Well, let's move on to kind of the left, because I think we can stick with Bellingham and Neves. There doesn't need to be too much debate. We can go 4-4-2 if we want. Who knows? Let's see how we end up.
Sean Dyche manager here.
It's the Championship. Any advance on Jack Grealish on the left?
So because I wanted to fit a certain QPR player in, I've had... And I can't not pick Pablo Hernandez.
Well, that's
let me finish. Okay, I've had to put Pablo Hernandez in down the left-hand side. Grealish was sensational and went for 100 million 2 years later, but Pablo Hernandez is the only player that's actually just made me laugh when I've been watching football, where I remember seeing Leeds playing at Villa and someone pinged the ball at him and it's like a bloody ballerina, just mugged off 3 players, took a touch and swung it to the other side of the pitch. I'm just sitting there laughing at. And I'm sure the Leeds fans will remember COVID season, one pass, was it against Stoke or Barnsley at the end of the season? Just complete magician. So yes, Jack Grealish for the back end and the 10 in a row. I just feel it's too short a period at Championship level, so I've got Hernandez there.
I mean, we've got Neves in on 1 season, so
Grealish is essentially half a season, isn't it?
Yeah,
he's injured right the way through. He comes back in, I think, February, and they win 10 on the trot, and he's the difference.
But then he's the difference between promotion and not. So I would go with Grealish.
I think he's brilliant, by the way. But
okay,
let's put Grealish in. I think I would have Grealish on the left.
Sorry, are we not going to have? We can discuss Pablo Hernandez later. I'm going to be like Roy Keane about you not having gigs here. Are we not going to have Pablo Hernandez in a Championship 11 here?
What did he go on to achieve after he left?
No, but
he played in the Champions League semi-final before he got to the Championship.
I'm not sure I agree with doing what do they do after they, because it's Championship 11. It's not a Premier League.
Yeah, we've kind of muddied the waters here, I think, on what we're trying to do, but we will
it's
get
a fun debate anyway.
It's a fun right. I'm putting Grealish in for now, and
okay.
We'll see what we come back to.
Can I say hi to all the Leeds fans in the comments?
On the right wing or right midfield,
Emi Buendia.
Yeah, I will die on this hill. It can't not be Emi Buendia.
100%.
Literally 2 promotions on his back, title wins. Amazing.
Absolute joy to watch.
Yeah.
Emi Buendia.
I mean, Wilfried Zaha did a decent job in the Championship, didn't he, as well, for Crystal Palace?
And
obviously.
showed up big style in that playoff semi-final as well, didn't he?
I would still say Buendia is a better footballer than Zaha. Zaha's great in terms of as a dribbler, but I think Buendia is a better
and he dragged that. He was like Michael Jordan in that team, wasn't he? It was like, this is the guy. And do you remember the points per game when he didn't play about 4 games that first season? They didn't win any of them, did they? Even with Pookie.
Incredible stuff. We've got... I think we need to move to the kind of attackers because there's so many to choose from, strikers-wise. I've written down a variety of forwards we could choose from here, including Harry Kane, Victor Gyökeres.
No, Harry Kane!
He played in the Championship,
No,
Gav.
but that's ridiculous because he didn't do anything in the Championship.
Did he make an appearance in the Championship?
No, but he did nothing for Leicester City. So.
Norwich and Millwall, he was...
No, but he didn't do anything
Hey, I'm not
for
going
those.
to argue that way. I'm just saying he's on the bench for the whole Dini goal,
I
isn't he?
will walk out of this room if we pick Harry Kane in our 11.
Jamie Vardy.
Yeah, I can go with Jamie Vardy.
Ollie Watkins, Ivan Toney.
I would go with Mitrovic, personally.
Mitrovic. Okay, right. Why Mitrovic then, Gab?
Just because he's such an aggressive centre forward who loves getting on the end of cross into the box. Pivotal for 2 promotions for Fulham. So, yeah, it has to be Mitrovic for me.
Yeah, Ben?
Well, I've got Taarabt as a number 10 in a 4-2-3-1. I don't know who's actually going to get the ball between Buendia, Hernandez and Taarabt in my team off the front there, but I feel, and I know Neil Warnock agrees with me, that the greatest individual Championship season ever is Taarabt in there. It's 1 season and the whole play went through him, but it was absolutely incredible.
You know what? I would be willing to fall on my sword with Grealish in order for Taarabt. I mean, I personally would have gone with Grealish in the 10, but I'm willing.
Remember, Grealish didn't play in the 10 in the Championship. Only played down the left, didn't he?
No. So I think he played in the 10 in the Championship, and then when
he played a 4-1-4-1, and he played down the left.
Oh, okay. I'm pretty sure that he played as a number 10 initially, and then got moved. Oh, okay, right, fair enough.
I went to a lot of those games, yeah.
Oh, okay, fair. All right, I'll go with you. Okay, well, we'll go with Taarabt then, shall we?
Should we go Taarabt instead of Grealish and just shoe on him in and then have 2 strikers?
You can't play Taarabt down the left, can you?
Or maybe Hernandez on the left and Taarabt on the
left. Now you're talking. Just picking my team now. Yeah. Can I just say who I've got up front? And this is, I need a bit of license here because this goes against the corporate rebound in 2004. I think the greatest second-tier player of all time is Kevin Phillips for what he did first time at Sunderland, then to go up to the Premier League, come back later in his career. I think he then got promoted then again with West Brom, and then still when he's like 40, he scores the penalty in the playoff final. So
yeah, but he's not comparable to Ruben Neves, is he? Like, as a finisher, he's incredible. But
let me rephrase: the greatest championship career, I think, second tier career, I think, is Kevin Phillips.
Okay, yeah.
I think.
Interesting.
So I would have him, but obviously Mitrovic for that season. With what would he get? 43 goals. I mean, it was a freak show of a team with a £90 million wage bill that spent their entire, but he was incredible.
Yeah, well, it was actually 3 seasons. I said it was 2 early, but it was actually 3 because I was 17-18 campaign.
You said he was pivotal to 2 promotions. Do I not remember you saying Fulham were better without him in the first promotion?
That's true. Yeah, I did say that once. The
Strokes chin.
The 1920 campaign. I did say that at one
We
stage.
do have an issue that I'm about to throw in the fact that I'm afraid Victor Gyökeres is going in this team.
No.
He is the best striker I've seen, maybe with Mitrovic at this level, in terms of dragging a team forward. I think he's going to go on to do massive things in his career. So I'm afraid we've got to fit something around him. So we can either have Mitrovic alongside with Gyökeres, which I'd be quite happy to do a 4-4-2. And then we just need to decide between Grealish and Taarabt. Well, I'm happy to just stick Taarabt on that.
You really don't need Taarabt if you've got Mitrovic and whoever Gyökeres up front, do you?
Let's do Mitrovic and Gyökeres.
You've got to give the QPR fans something here. They love that Taarabt season.
I know they do. But there's no room for him in the team.
But then, does it make more sense to have Grealish on the left than if we're playing 4-4-2?
Yeah.
Probably.
I'm afraid, due to my old school managerial style with 2 big men up front.
So we've got Mick McCarthy with Sean Dyche as assistant to manage this
Do you know
team.
what I will do, actually? I'll ask the final question
Neil Warnock.
Is that the answer? Who do you want managing this team in terms of second?
It's got to be Neil Warnock.
It's got to be Neil Warnock. That's the answer we've got down. Right, I'm going to read out this team.
We'll give him some coaches. He's just like man manager. He just
Give him Terry Connor.
So the team we've created,
It was like Kieran McKenna, but
somehow is James Trafford in goal from this current Burnley team, which is a really nice touch. Trippier, Willy Boley, Phil Jagielka and Leif Davis are left back. That's a nice back 4. Midfield, Emi Buendia, Jude Bellingham, Ruben Neves and Jack Grealish. And up front, Alexander Mitrovic and Victor Gyökeres, managed by Neil Warnock. I mean, where would that team finish in the Premier League? Let's talk about that.
that's 17th, do you reckon?
They would stay up then. It's quite a team and quite a prospect. Get in the comments below if we've missed anyone. If you think Adel Taarabt or anybody else, Pablo Hernandez, maybe you think should be in this team, as Ben nods his head in the corner, please let us know down below. Bit of fun anyway. Something that isn't a bit of fun, Gab, is your corner of concern. I know we've talked about quite a lot of the relegation teams already, but any team you're looking at with a bit of worry right now?
Yeah, well, I suppose it would be Luton. We did touch on them quite a bit earlier. So I'm going to touch on Middlesbrough because it's 5 straight defeats for the Borough. Question marks now over the managerial position. I'm really surprised, given what we've talked about, which is it's a fairly low bar in terms of the playoffs. For Middlesbrough to be 7 points off the playoffs is really poor, and 19 points off the automatic spots. Given how good they can be at their best, I think is really disappointing. And Carrick's, this is Carrick's 3rd season now. He's had time to work out how to go from being a team that can create chances and play really good football to a team that can be a really efficient winning machine. And he's not yet overseen them sort of bridging that gap. And so I'm just wondering, do you have to start asking questions?
Ben, how do you answer those questions?
It's disappointing, isn't it? Because all the things we sit here and say, me and Gab, we love to see English managers get the chance. People are deranged when it comes to Rooney and Terry and Lampard and, those guys. And obviously Carrick's kind of in that bracket. And I'm just a bit disappointed because I had such high hopes. We had that lightning in a bottle with Akpom and Archer and Ramsey and Giles in that first season. But I've got to say, I totally agree. If it's a low bar, Latte Lath going middle of the season is disappointing as well. That I did expect more. And I know Steve Gibson's immediately come out and said there are no plans to change the manager here. But where are they, Gab? If they don't finish in the top half at game 46 here, we got a problem. And it's just really disappointing because I had Carrick as this cerebral, non-typical English player who I just wanted to be a good manager, and isn't going well this season, but they could stick with him and it could turn around, but not good at the moment.
I was so confident they were going to finish in the playoffs. Only a few weeks ago, Gab, I talked them up massively. All of their underlying numbers look good in terms of XG, chance creation, and they've completely fallen off a cliff. It's almost inexplicable, isn't it? Would you give him to the end of the season, think about making a change, Gab? How are you feeling about his actual future at Borough?
This is really tough. I do see potential from Carrick, but I really would want to see, if I was in Steve Gibson's shoes, some sort of progress toward between now and the end of the season, that he can work out how to build a team that's got some of those intangibles in place. Because for me, Middlesbrough are just so passive when they don't have the ball, and that's got to change to give me some sort of belief that they can challenge next season. But just to add a little bit of balance to what I was sort of saying earlier, Middlesbrough were sort of towards the relegation places when Carrick first took charge, and he's delivered a team that, other than the last sort of 5 or 6 games, has been very consistently in that playoff conversation. So it's not like they're a million miles off, and this is probably their sort of lowest point, and I'm sure they will sort of pick up form again. However, you also feel like that extra little bit is sort of missing with Middlesbrough at the moment.
Simon, I feel it's either Mr. Illichali with Liam Rossignol, where if he's going to make that call immediately at the end of the season, or it's got to be November before you have another transfer window, you have a go at that season, and then you make the change. I don't feel now what's somebody else going to do now. Don't get me wrong, someone could come in and take them to promotion, but I don't really feel that's likely if it's not going to be Carrick. But yeah, just a sense of disappointment about how it's going.
Yeah, absolutely. Gab, your treble for this weekend after your winner last weekend.
Yes, I think Leeds, Middlesbrough and Sheffield United are all going to... Odd, isn't it, how you're saying picking Middle... Do you know what it is? There's not as many games on this weekend, so I've had to be slightly selective. I think Middlesbrough got Derby this weekend, and just on that basis, I don't think Derby create enough chances. They were improved defensively last time out, but I'm not quite sure. I think Leeds are going to win at the weekend. They've got Sheffield United away tonight, obviously, but I've got a feeling that they're going to get 3 points against West Brom as well on Saturday, and I think Sheffield United will get the 3 points as well.
Away at QPR, Sheffield United. And that treble is 4-1 on Betfred, and we'll get that probably boosted for you if you're lucky to back this weekend. We must look at a couple of big fixtures this weekend, though, coming up, because we've already touched on them again. It's Luton Portsmouth, Ben, which just feels gargantuan in terms of any possibility that Luton can stay up, right? If they lose this...
So I was just nonplussed by the gargantuan word. Just
got to give it the big bill in, haven't I?
Really, really got it. Is it at the Kenny?
Yes.
So, and this has been a pattern that we've been seeing this season, where there's been a disproportionately low number of away wins. There are quite a few teams, Luton, Bristol City, Watford, West Brom even, who are winning a lot of home games. Portsmouth are now one of them, and losing a lot of away games. Yes, must win, tick box, da-dee-da-dee-da. But Portsmouth not great away from Fratton. I don't know. Bit of a cushion now. Can Portsmouth, although Portsmouth will be thinking, win that game. They'll go to 42 and you've almost ticked Luton off. It's like, well, they definitely can't catch us now. But would I be surprised if the Kenny was horrible and tight and rocking and those balls were raining into the penalty box and Luton got the win? But I've been predicting it all season and it hasn't happened.
3 in a row, isn't it, for Portsmouth now, Gab, as well? 3 wins in a row. And that's been the difference maker for them in terms of dragging them up to that near 40-point mark.
Well, do you know what I'm really impressed with is if you look at the starting 11 for those 3 wins, I think only 3 or 4 of those players were sort of playing for them in League One, in the League One title winning last
Just
season.
a new team, yeah.
Yeah, so, which is really unusual for a team that's kind of come up by that route. Normally it'd be the same squad, but I think a few of the players, they're either lost a few of them or 1 or 2 were only on.
I like the front 4. I like Murphy, Bishop, Lang, Richie.
Yeah.
You've got goals and you're winning home games. you're probably not going down, are you?
Murphy's been brilliant this season.
Yeah.
Looks a great signing from Oxford. Obviously, Lang's out for the rest of the season, which is a bit
Oh,
of a
fair point, yeah.
But Ritchie, his experience. He's very fit as well for his age, isn't he, Matt Ritchie? So, and then Colby Bishop as that focal point. So, yeah, spot on.
Right, quick score prediction from you both for this one as well.
1-0 Luton.
1-0 Luton.
Yeah, I'm going to double him up. We're still going for the fact that Luton are going to spring and Pompey are better at home than they are away. So I'll go for 2-1, same margin then.
I'll go for a draw, 1-1 maybe. Let's go for that. And then the other game we're going to have a look forward to is Blackburn versus Norwich at Ewood Park. Blackburn currently sitting in that final playoff spot. Gab, I presume you're fancying Norwich to go and do a job there?
Possibly, yeah. Familiar theme. Norwich, great at home, struggle away. I feel like I'm repeating myself a lot this season. Yeah, I think for Blackburn Rovers, David Lowe's obviously done a decent job in the interim period. They struggled in that 3-0 loss at Swansea. They're obviously without Danny Bart. I think Dom Hyam struggles when he's not got that experienced centre-half alongside him. So that's obviously a problem. Lewis Travis gave the ball away a lot at Swansea. The fullbacks weren't really getting forward. So lots of issues for Blackburn to address for Wednesday night. And I just like the look of Norwich, and I think if they can take that home form into Ewood Park, then they've got a good chance.
Blackburn have also had very good home form though, Ben. So how do we see this one going?
Just got this weird no manager bounce situation though, where Eustace went and they had a brilliant week, didn't they? And won 2 games with David Lowe, and then you kind of, the first time they lose a game, you're like, right, okay, you need to bring a new manager in now and get this moving. You think there'll be residual John Eustace, excellent coaching, tight back four team shape that will last through to the end of the season. But unfortunately, at the moment, there is no Norwich nil because of Sargent and Science. They're definitely scoring in this game. And for that reason, you probably make them favourites. And if they do, as Gab said earlier in the show, if they do put 2 or 3 wins together, that door is wide open for 5th and 6th. So I'm sure you'll come to me in a minute, but I will be back in Norwich.
I'll go for a 2-0 Norwich win as well. I think they've got too much going forward, as Ben suggests, for this one.
2-1 Norwich for me.
Can I double him up or do you need a different score
Yeah,
line?
no, you go for it. Yeah.
I'll double him up, 2-1 Norwich.
Excellent stuff. Any last comments from either of you on the Championship this week, or are we done and dusted?
I'm just a word for Tom Cleverley for overseeing that derby victory for Watford.
Still having a job.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, back-to-back wins. Really, do you know? I don't think their performances were too far off, even when they were a little bit out of form. So, really impressed with the work. Do you know what I really like about Tom Cleverley is lots of managers are so regimented in the way they go about their business, where players have got to be in their zones, and it almost stifles individual expression. What I like about Tom Cleverley that's kind of different to a lot of coaches is that he does give his players a little bit of freedom to go out there and express themselves. And he's got the best out of Georgi Shakvatadze just because he seems to have given him free rein. And he's brought this brilliant ball-carrying ability to the table in a way that I'm not seeing with many other Championship players. And I think it's because under other coaches, they might be more confined in what they're able to do spatially, whereas I think Tom Cleverley just allows him that freedom, and it's certainly paying off for him.
The fact he kind of broke through that period of the rumours of him getting replaced and now seems to be clear.
1 win in 10, Simon.
The other side, I know, and now they're looking upwards again, an outside chance of the playoffs. But that's a conversation for next week. Thank you very much, Ben and Gab, for joining me as always. Make sure you like and subscribe, and get in your comments down below, remember, about the players we missed out of our best ever Championship 11. But that's all from us for this week, and we'll see you next time.